are switching gears right now to some interesting conversation as it relates to youth empowerment. How important is it in today's Nigeria? We have on Zoom this morning Dr. Mohammed Mujtaba Abubakar. He is Chief Lecturer, Department of Business Administration and Management, Waziri Umaru Federal Polytechnic, Birnin, Kebbi. Thank you for joining us. Good morning, sir.
Thank you for having me on the program.
All right, thank you for joining us. I mean, youth empowerment is very important in today's Nigeria because, again, beyond the empowerment that comes with these engagements, it also has to do with developing skill for today's, usage. But I'm just wondering if you think that with what we have had in the past, it has been effective enough to mitigate, what what we're having today, and what the future also holds.
Thank you so much. I think quite to the contrary, what we have today is far from being adequate to take care of the future. Of course, efforts have been made by government, non-governmental organizations, and individuals, private initiatives to foster youth empowerment. But actually, we are very far from the promised land. And this is vindicative of poverty, present widespread poverty, unemployment, staggering inflation, and indeed insecurity all over the place. Youth empowerment is generally agreed to be the major incidence of national development. And when we talk of national development, we are talking of improvement in all indices of development. And for a country to take care of its future through sustainable development. Development is looked upon as improvement in the areas of economy, politics, culture, security, and of course, skills acquisition, which is the bedrock of economic development world over. And when we talk of youth, we are talking of, the period between childhood and adulthood. I don't want to be strict on the definition of youth, but let me say for our discussion today, the youth are those people within the age of 15, 24 to 30, 35. And to be conservative, like I said earlier, those between childhood and adulthood, these are the youth. And it will astonish some people to know that 70% of the Nigerian population is made up of youth. As at August 2024, Nigerian population is estimated at 230 million. 160 million of these are youth. And therefore, any nation that abandons the youth, any nation that does not plan for its youth is a failed nation. And what we are witnessing today in the country is a call for urgent action by all. You see, if you look at all spheres of life, these spheres of life are dominated by the youth, whether it's positive or negative. If you look at the marketplace, look at the economy generally, most of the major players are the youth because they have the energies. Even when you also look at political participation, of course, the youth are there, even though they are not occupying, they are not making contribution in the strategic areas, of contesting, voting, and whatnot. Unfortunately, you find most of our youth, in the political toggery. Some of them they don't even know or acknowledge their civic rights. They don't participate as they are expected to participate, in the political process. I mentioned insecurity. If you look carefully, most of those involved, in cases of violence, including insurgency, they are youth. I don't want to talk about the North, the North is already destroyed because of the kidnapping, because of the banditry, and also because of begging. Because I tell you, the way people beg, we have teenage beggars in the North, this is what contributes significantly to insecurity. It's a time bomb. And we don't have better time to address these issues than now. A lot of these problems are products of misconceptions. They are not religious at all. They have nothing to do with our culture. One begin to wonder how we find ourselves where we are. And I keep on saying all hands must be on deck to address these issues. Now, if we want to say a country is developed or not developed, like I said earlier, we look at the economic indices, we look at political indices, we look at child mortality rate, we look at inflation, we also look at unemployment. Unemployment has been placed at over 43%. Now, Mr. President, in his 2024 budget presentation, has promised to reduce the gap by 15%. Amen, we say amen. But you see, it is one thing to say, and it is another thing to implement. It is our duty collectively, lawmakers, the technocrats, the government workers, not only politicians, to ensure that Nigeria's dream is realized. Nigeria is the giant of Africa. Look at 2024. The high GDP was recorded of over 400 by South Africa, followed by Egypt, with I think 380 US dollars. And the third one is Algeria for that matter. I think we need to wake up in Nigeria. We need to wake up. I am not trying to say everything is bad all over the place now. Nigeria has also recorded some strides in a number of areas. For instance, now in the present quarter, we have seen improvement in the cost of living, largely because of the reduction in the prices of food. Even the value of Naira has appreciated, I think by more than 100 Naira. And the exchange rate is now around 150. One may say this is nothing to write home about. It is. Because when we look back, when we look at the last quarter and last year and what is happening, we must appreciate, no matter how small, the improvement in the value of Naira and the foreign exchange. What we lack in Nigeria is sustainability. We need to sustain. Whatever is positive, we need to sustain. So all hands must be on deck to sustain these positive trends. Now, like we said, the youth are the most important members of any nation. And because I am from the North, the situation in the North is most alarming. I always want to stress, you see, we need, now, let me go back to the out-of-school children now. Out-of-school children. One would want to know that 1 out of 3 kids in Nigeria is out of school. And Nigeria alone constitutes 15% of the global total. And one would say 80%, more than 80% of these out-of-school children are in the North. I think one thing we need to do is to integrate the Al-Majiri system of education, the informal system of education. We need to empower these Al-Majiri with skills so that they can be useful members of society later. Otherwise, we will end up producing criminals. Yes, I said it again and again. So, but then, with the introduction of the Al-Majiri system of education, and if government can sustain it, because former President Goodluck Jonathan started it, I always commend Jonathan for that. God bless him. If we can sustain the Al-Majiri system of education, where we allow these kids, we encourage them to study the Quran, and at the same time, at least, integrate English and mathematics, and citizenship education into their curriculum. And most importantly, impart skills on them so that they can be on their own, they can live on their own later in life. I think this is a very important strategy that can be used by authorities, not only to improve the to enhance national development, but also, and most importantly, to enhance security of life and property, particularly in the North. I know insecurity is a national issue, and research, both anecdotal evidence and empirical evidence, have shown a very strong relationship, in fact, positive relationship between national development, youth empowerment, and national security itself. So a lot has to be done in order to secure the future of Nigeria. The youth are our most important assets. The youth are our most important assets. And they shouldn't be abandoned or left on their own. Because most of the time, youth are used in things that are negative, things that are selfish. When you look at selfish agendas, personal motivations, people who are highly placed, this is where most of the time youth are misused, if I should use the word misuse instead of use. They are misused, they are misguided. And I want to strongly, suggest that government under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu should rise to this challenge. The challenge of youth, unemployment, the challenge of out-of-school children, of course, the challenge of hunger. These have to be addressed immediately. Nigeria is living among the international committee or global committee of nations. We are not an island. You see, when we talk of globalization, all we are saying is that whatever affects Nigeria, especially being the giant of Africa, affect the whole of Africa, because 1 out of 5 Africans is a Nigerian. And the rest of the world depends on Nigeria. This is the reality. Most of the resources that are used to develop the global economy are from Nigeria. They are untapped. Look at the land that God has given us. Look at the rivers. Look at the human resources. Nigerians can be found, most of the youth, they are found in the United States, United Kingdom, in Asia, in many, so-called, developed countries. Nigerians are there participating, contributing positively to national development. Why not at home? We need to make Nigeria attractive to our youth. See, there's this problem of brain drain. We are aware of it. Most of our trained engineers, trained medical doctors, academicians are leaving the country for greener pasture. There is the need to look at the pay structure remuneration in Nigeria. We need to be serious about minimum wage in this country. So that whatever the take home should really actually take somebody home. We have been talking of a take home that does not take anybody home. So these are issues that should be addressed. Again, the youth, one problem with youth is that they always shout and accuse the elders, especially politicians, but give them chance, most of them also fail. So I think here we need a moral orientation. This is where our religion, because most of us in Nigeria, we are either Muslims, Christians, majority now, and we are the most religious people in the world. But then, ironically, at the same time, when it comes to corruption, corrupt practices, we are on top. This is very disturbing. You see, it's not just going to the mosque, praying 5 times a day, going to church on Sunday. We need to see these values, religious values, moral values, being translated in our daily life. We need to be our brothers' keepers. We need to support one another. Like I said, sometimes youth are given opportunities in government and their performance are abysmal. This is quite astonishing. I think the youth, when they cry and accuse the elders, of corruption, of taking Nigeria back, anytime they get the opportunity, they should be exemplary. This is a challenge to the Nigerian youth. They should be exemplary. Even the academia, to where I belong, I've seen people in the academia, lecturers like me, who have been accusing government, condemning government, those in authority. But when they are given the opportunity to contribute, their contributions are abysmal.
Just to also add up to what you have been saying, what kind of today's, empowerment, if you like, what kind of, skill can someone really, inculcate today that would help the person mitigate against the economic downturn that we're facing today. But we understand there are several economic several economic empowerment that are out there. Some they are giving money, some it's a skill acquisition. Are there specific skills that someone can inculcate today or can learn today that would help them, help them with the economic situation today?
Yes, there are various specific skills, you see. It depends on the person and on the environment. The era is an era of entrepreneurship. See, I don't personally like the idea of giving money to youth. Most of this money is misused. So, of course, skills. Now, like I'm coming from the north, like I am saying, we have arable land. So agriculture is one of them. Now, instead of giving money, youth need to be provided with farming implements, including fertilizer. They can be given a single digit, loan. It's okay. But then the monitoring is the most important thing, the monitoring. Because a lot has been done in this perspective, but it has not yielded the desired results because of lack of monitoring. Another issue is another skill is the IT skill, computer skills. Today we are living in a globalized economy, and I want to encourage youth to go into what we call e-marketing. E-marketing is very important. I teach e-marketing in the classroom because it affords youth the opportunity to expose their talent, expose their products and services to the global market. And with little effort, one can make it. Another important, skills that can actually make a difference on our youth is when we take issues like skills in welding, carpentry, and joinery. Skills. In some of these trades, that are much needed by society. Because what we need to do is first we study the environment, we study the supply and demand trends before we make a choice. Of course, like I said earlier, we need to look at our personalities as youth. We have what we call the physically challenged. So the physically challenged are also, part of the youth that can actually achieve empowerment. So they look at their own situation and choose carefully. Like this issue of ICT, computer, this issue of electronic marketing, I think this area very much fits those that are physically challenged. So a lot of opportunities are out there for our youth, and they are very promising opportunities. They're very promising. Like I keep on saying, going to school is important, but then the certificate is not as important as the skills. So we have in the North people who have not been to school. We have even those who have some of these skills. We have our artisans, craftsmen and women, but they have not been to school. So what they need is the ability to read and write, the ability to access the internet, to use internet. I think this group of people, once they have these skills, reading and writing ability, use of internet, I think they are there, they are done. And those with certificates, whether it's NCE, diploma or degree, and they are roaming about the streets, what they need is what I've said earlier. They can go into agriculture. And in the area of agriculture, I think one area that stands unique is that of value addition. Like where I come from, I am from Kebbi State. A lot of our farm products are wasted because we cannot store them, because we cannot grade them, and our farmers are not getting value for their money. I think the need for concerted effort to study how, for instance, onion can be stored. Onions can be stored, even our millet. We lose a lot of grains here in the north because of the issue of storage, because we cannot transform them into value-added products. I think this area, however, will require the intervention of government, our business, men and women, because a lot of investment is needed and youth resources could be tapped. We can start from a modular scale. And our youth can also combine their meager resources to start somewhere. And I am telling you, we can produce not only for the local market, but also for the market around, if not even global market. So these are some of the opportunities that are open to our youth. And like I said earlier, the youth should also be, sincere to themselves, because I keep on giving an example with the North. Some of our youth are not serious at all. Laziness, idleness, youth preferring to be given instead of to give. This syndrome, this disease, this canker disease, this canker need to be fought, really. And this is an area where our clergy can come, where National Orientation Agency can come, where teachers can come. Honestly, we need a moral, the reorientation, because everything starts from the mind. You see, there have been calls, there have been consistent government programs targeted at youth empowerment, but to me, one major reason why it failed is because the youth themselves are not ready. Some of them are not ready, not all of them. I know some of them are not ready to actually imbibe the culture of independence, the culture of innovation, the culture of, going out of the box, doing something different, the culture of change. Let me use the word change. We need to change the way we are doing things. Up to this moment, some of us are still using the old farming implements. And as a result, some of our youth who are into agriculture could not even provide for their family. So we really need to embrace change. Change, I think, change is the formula. Change is the way out for in whatever we are doing. So there's a vast area, and the youth can approach government agencies established, for youth empowerment. You see, you need to ask before you are given. You understand. We cannot just fold our hands. Youth should not just fold out their hands and expect heaven to rain money. We have to wake up. We have to wake up. We have to seek for our rights within the confines of the law. So this is the way to go. This is the way to go. A lot of opportunities are there out for the youth. A lot of them, especially when we embrace, what I said times and again. If we can embrace the computer, if we can embrace, the ICT, we'll see a lot of opportunities. We borrow from other nations, from other countries around the globe. Nigeria is blessed more than any other country. So, but then there's the need for consistent supply of electricity, water, this basic infrastructure. And this is where government, because any empowerment, youth empowerment effort will require this basic infrastructure.
Right.
The president has promised. Yeah.
There's this challenge that also pops up when we talk about skill acquisitions. Some youth say, beyond just acquiring this skill, sometimes you will need a startup capital. Sometimes this capital are not readily available. I mean, you don't walk into a bank and say that a bank should sponsor your skill acquisition aftermath. Most of them, sometimes have the skill, but they don't have the wherewithal, to go further in executing whatever it is that they have learned. Do you think that somewhat the government should intervene in that regard, or private sector, in fact, should intervene in that regard? And then to what extent? But we also know that anybody who is investing money would want to be sure that the monies that are being investing are actually monies that are used for what they actually claim that they're used for. So sometimes youth can get these monies and then run off with it and not do what they say that they're going to do with it. So how do you, have this balance, of youth acquisition and then going into executing the skill that they have acquired, and then having probably private partnership or the private sector coming into that space to sponsor the youth knowledge in terms of contributing to the global economy?
I think the solution, this problem, I have mentioned it earlier. The bottom line is like I said, is monitoring. You see, the problem is not only the youth, but also government itself. You see, we need to monitor. We need to group youth. They need to register, and they need to be monitored seriously. It is true, many of our youth have these skills, they have acquired the skills, but access to necessary capital, is a problem. Now, this is where government can play a critical role. And like you have said, not only government, private partnership, private-public partnership. We have, endowment funds. all over the place that can support. But I think the key is monitoring, like I keep on saying. These youth, they need to be organized into groups. They need to register properly. They need to be monitored if, we can on a daily basis. But like I keep on saying, we all need to be serious with youth empowerment. Sometimes, and it's not only federal government, state governments are there, local governments are there. With local government are becoming more autonomous, I think a lot can be done. And there are agencies, both local and foreign, that are out there to support this type of youth empowerment initiatives. And like I keep on saying, we need to look for them. The youth need to search. We need to search. It is true, sometimes, many a times, the youth have actually, acquired the skills, but the issue of necessary capital, and that's why I mentioned a single digit land. You see, to take a loan, when you look at our conventional banks, the money deposit bank, when you look at the interest rate, it's prohibitive. I will not, advise any youth or youth group to approach our conventional banks for loan. And that's why there's the need for special government intervention when it comes to provision of facilities, loan facilities for youth empowerment. This is very important. So we need more. Government has done something, but we need much more than what is on ground now to actually, break this barrier, the barrier of access to finance, to actually, support youth empowerment initiatives in Nigeria. Yes.
No.
All right. I want to say a very big thank you, sir, for your analysis on this particular topic. We truly, really appreciate you. Thank you for coming on the show this morning.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me on the program.
Save Nature TV. News in your pocket.